Overnight, we've seen a classic example of the social media cesspool of Twitter and how it supercharges the cancel culture that's becoming insidious in our society. Far too many in the media cave into that pressure, allowing the abusive, hard-left keyboard warriors to dictate the terms of public debate in this country. Former Channel 10 newsreader and television host Jessica Rowe has been a pretty friendly, open and popular media figure for decades.
When I look back and think about my time, that's what I'm most proud of, that I could use my voice for things that really mattered to me, and not just to me, but to so many people. And I think at the moment, when we think about the lockdown that so many of us are going through, my heart goes out to so many new mums.
She's never been overtly political, just interested in discussing issues with people. And Rowe launched a podcast last month, promising to dig deep with famous and successful people and declaring that nothing would be off limits. And it all started pretty well, with guests including Olympian Stephanie Rice, comedian Julia Morris and Today Show host Carl Stefanovic. But then, horror of horrors, Rowe decided to interview One Nation founder and leader Pauline Hanson. Not about her politics and hot-button issues like immigration, wearing burqas or mandatory vaccinations. The discussion instead focused on the human being behind the politician. You know, such controversial issues as love and why she keeps going.
What about love? What sort of role does love play in your life, Pauline?
Are you asking me, have I got someone in my life?
Of course I am. We all need someone in our life to keep us warm at night.
I got a good hot water bottle and I've got a good... Hey, listen, 2 failed marriages and a couple of boyfriends along the way. That's my vision of love.
You know it's a good laugh when you get a bit of snorting in there, don't you? All fair enough stuff. Look, Hanson's been in the glare of the political spotlight for 25 years now. She's preached intolerance at times, and she had plenty of hate come back her way in return. She's even been jailed over political manoeuvres. So a relaxed and intimate insight was never going to be boring.
I think these days too many people are playing the victim and they want sympathy. And our society's changed so much that we've encouraging people to be the victim instead of encouraging them to stand up, face their issues and their problems and say, OK, how do you deal with this? Pick yourself up, dust yourself down and get over it, move on, and then start to think, OK, how can I make it better for myself? Instead of playing the victim. And that's what I feel is a big problem in our society these days.
All common sense. From the small bits that I've been able to hear, it sounded like a pretty good chat. But the social media pylon started 2 minutes after Jessica Rowe uploaded that podcast. And obviously before most of the respondents had time to listen to it, if they ever did. The abuse came thick and fast. Australian of the Year Grace Tame tweeted, "This is how discrimination and hate is subtly enabled and normalised. Pauline doesn't need help to be heard, but those whose oppression she's both driven and reinforced do." Former Race Discrimination Commissioner Tim Soutphommasane said on Twitter that he hoped there were questions about racism and vaccinations too. Activist Carly Findlay said, "I hope you are going to be talking to many First Nations people, people of colour and disabled people on your podcast since you're platforming Pauline." Jessica Rowe had committed the heinous offence of interviewing someone she disagrees with. For the lynch mob on Twitter, that's a hanging offence. They went into meltdown with smears about racism, even invoking the Ku Klux Klan. These people are not interested in the contest of ideas. Hell, they're not even interested in ideas. In their echo chamber, you cheer the left and you spit bile at the right. It's as inane and hateful as that. But if you're going to spend your time sucking up the love from the Twitter crowd, you've got to know what to expect when you break their rules as well. And sadly, it didn't take long for Rowe to cave into the pressure of the mob, tweeting that she'd listened to the comments and asked the hosting company to take down the interview. This will be the start of a bigger conversation for me, she said, and with those who this topic directly affects. It's a sad indictment on Australian society when you can't have a rational conversation with someone on either side of the political divide, an elected senator, no less. Hanson actually had some sage and prescient, as it turns out, advice in the podcast.
As a woman in politics too, and a very high-profile woman, you have been targeted, and because I'd really like to know how you manage that. Because I know for me, when people have had a go at me, it used to hurt me dreadfully, and I'd cry and things. Because
but Jessica, why? That's your problem. Okay, these people. Do you know them personally? Do they know you personally? Why would you listen to anyone that has no involvement in your life, wouldn't know a thing about you, don't put a roof over your head, don't put food on your table, have no interest in your health issues? Why would you listen to their opinion?
It's a shame that Rowe didn't take that sensible advice because, as Pauline Hanson said, she should simply ignore the noisy mob baying for blood. Instead, she's caved in and she's given them what they wanted. Jessica Rowe has essentially apologised to them for speaking to Hanson and accepted that she's the one who has to lift her game. That's a bad call. Don't cave in to the mob. Jessica Rowe, you were right to do that interview. And that crazy mob, the hateful lefties on Twitter, they'll never forgive you anyway. You can't appease them. Now you're stuck in purgatory. Put your podcast back up. Let people listen to the discussion. Show the steel in your spine. And wear the putrid abuse from the cowards on Twitter as a badge of pride. Better still, quit Twitter and concentrate on real people in the real world where, as your initial press release said, nothing should be off limits for civil discussion.